The morning shift at Stellar Grounds Diner began before Titan Colony's artificial dawn cycle, when the settlement's atmospheric processors hummed their lowest notes, and most residents remained safely asleep in their climate-controlled homes. Kira Velshan tied her server's apron with practiced efficiency, her elongated ears automatically adjusting to filter out the kitchen's mechanical noise, a biological adaptation that her human customers found either fascinating or disturbing, depending on their tolerance for interspecies differences. "Maya, stay close to the counter," she called to her daughter, who was settled in a corner booth with a collection of worn educational tablets. "I know it's boring, but Mrs. Patterson said you can't come back to her place until the other parents stop complaining." 6-year-old Maya looked up from her studies, her mismatched eyes, one silver like her mother's, one brown like her late father's, reflecting resignation that no child should have to carry. Her ears were smaller than full Andriani, but pointed enough to mark her as visibly different from the human children who attended Titan Colony's only school. "It's okay, Mama," Maya said with the careful politeness of someone who'd learned early that drawing attention usually led to uncomfortable conversations. "I like watching you work." Kira felt the familiar ache in her chest that came from her daughter's premature understanding of social rejection. Maya had been forced to develop patience and independence that most 6-year-olds never needed, simply because her mixed heritage made her unwelcome in spaces designed for pure human families. The diner's first customers began arriving as the colony's work shifts changed over. Miners heading home from the overnight extraction runs, administrators starting their bureaucratic day, and the occasional off-world trader looking for real food instead of processed ration packs. Kira moved between tables with smooth efficiency, taking orders and serving meals while remaining as invisible as possible to customers who preferred their service, without reminders of the colony's alien residents. "Coffee, black, extra stimulants," ordered Supervisor Jenkins, a man whose tolerance for non-humans extended only to their economic usefulness. "And tell your kid to keep it down over there. Some of us are trying to think." Maya hadn't made a sound, but Kira nodded politely and refilled his cup without comment. Experience had taught her that defending herself only escalated situations that were better managed through strategic silence. Dr. Nathan Cross entered during the breakfast rush, his medical uniform marking him as one of the colony's essential personnel, someone whose expertise made him too valuable to alienate, regardless of his personal quirks. He'd been coming to Stellar Grounds for 3 months, always ordering the same synthesized eggs and asking for extra reading time over his coffee. "Good morning, Dr. Cross," Kira said, automatically preparing his usual order. "The usual table by the window." "Actually," Nathan replied, glancing toward Maya's corner booth, "would it be possible to sit over there? The lighting's better for reading medical journals." Kira felt a flutter of anxiety. Most customers avoided sitting near Maya, claiming her presence was distracting or inappropriate. But Nathan had always been polite, even kind in their brief interactions. "Of course," she said, leading him to a table adjacent to Maya's booth. "I'll bring your order right over." As she prepared Nathan's breakfast, Kira watched him introduce himself to Maya, asking about her educational tablets with genuine interest rather than the forced politeness that most adults used when acknowledging her existence. Maya responded with shy enthusiasm, explaining her study program in the careful, precise English that Kira had taught her alongside her native Andriani. "She's remarkably advanced for her age," Nathan commented when Kira delivered his meal. "Those mathematical concepts are usually introduced much later in standard curriculum. Andriani children develop analytical skills earlier than humans," Kira explained carefully, ready to deflect if his interest turned toward the kind of invasive questions she'd learned to expect. "Maya benefits from both learning traditions." "That's fascinating. I imagine the synthesis of different educational approaches creates unique advantages." Kira paused in her serving routine, surprised by Nathan's positive interpretation of Maya's mixed heritage. Most humans saw her daughter's dual nature as confusion rather than advantage, a biological compromise that left her belonging fully to neither species. The morning progressed peacefully until Mrs. Chen arrived with her 7-year-old son Tommy, who attended school with Maya when the other children's parents weren't pressuring administrators to find alternative arrangements for the alien child. "Dr. Cross, Mrs. Chen said pointedly, I'm surprised to see you socializing with certain elements. People are starting to talk about your associations with non-human residents." Nathan looked up from his medical journal with the calm expression of someone accustomed to handling difficult personalities in professional settings. "Mrs. Chen, I assume you're referring to my conversation with Maya about her mathematics studies. She's demonstrating exceptional aptitude for her age group." "That's not the point, Mrs. Chen replied, her voice carrying the authority of someone who considered herself a guardian of community standards. There are appropriate boundaries in a human settlement. Children need to understand social hierarchies, especially when dealing with mixed situations." Maya's shoulders hunched as she tried to make herself smaller in her corner booth, a defensive posture that Kira recognized from too many similar encounters. Her daughter had learned to anticipate rejection and prepare for emotional withdrawal before conversations even began. "Mixed situations," Nathan repeated thoughtfully. "You mean families?" Mrs. Chen's expression hardened. "I mean situations that create confusion about proper social development. Tommy, come away from there. We'll find another table." After they relocated to the far side of the diner, Nathan continued his conversation with Maya as if nothing had happened, asking about her favorite subjects and listening to her responses with the focused attention of someone genuinely interested in her thoughts. Kira felt something dangerous stirring in her chest, hope that someone might see value in her daughter beyond tolerance or pity. The shift ended with Maya helping Kira clean tables, a routine they'd developed to make the long hours more bearable. As they prepared to leave, Nathan approached the counter where Kira was calculating the day's receipts. "I hope this isn't presumptuous," he said, "but I noticed Maya's interest in biological systems when we were discussing her studies. If she'd ever like to visit the medical center, I'd be happy to show her some of the diagnostic equipment. Educational purposes, of course." Kira felt her protective instincts warring with desperate hope that someone might offer Maya positive attention. "That's very kind, Dr. Cross, but I wouldn't want to impose on your time." "It wouldn't be an imposition. Actually, I think I'd learn as much from her questions as she would from the equipment demonstrations." Nathan smiled at Maya, who was listening from behind the counter with barely contained excitement. "What do you think, Maya? Would you be interested in learning about medical science?" Maya looked at her mother with an expression that combined hope and fear, hope that this opportunity might be real, and fear that accepting it would somehow make their situation worse. "Can I, Mama?" she asked quietly. Kira studied Nathan's face, searching for hidden motivations or signs that his offer came with unspoken expectations. Instead, she found only the kind of professional warmth that suggested he saw Maya as an interesting person rather than a problematic alien child. "We'll see," Kira said carefully. "Thank you for the invitation, Dr. Cross." As they walked home through Titan Colony's sterile corridors, Maya chattered excitedly about medical equipment and biological systems, while Kira wondered if she was making a mistake by allowing hope to take root in their carefully controlled lives. 3 days after Dr. Cross's invitation, Maya developed a fever that sent Kira into carefully controlled panic. Andriani physiology ran warmer than human normal, but Maya's mixed heritage meant that standard temperature readings could indicate anything from a minor cold to a serious hybrid immune system conflict. "Her temperature is elevated, but not critically," Dr. Cross said, running a medical scanner over Maya's small form while she lay on the examination table. "However, The readings are inconsistent with typical human pediatric patterns. Kira hovered nearby, her maternal instincts warring with the practical knowledge that showing too much concern might be interpreted as alien overreaction by human medical staff. In pure androgyny children, fever patterns follow lunar cycles related to immune system synchronization, but Maya's human genetics might interfere with that process. Nathan looked up from his scanner, his expression shifting from routine professionalism to genuine interest. You have medical knowledge. Traditional bioharmonic healing, Kira replied carefully. It's not considered real medicine by most human practitioners. On the contrary, bioharmonic principles complement modern diagnostic techniques beautifully. Nathan adjusted his scanner settings, incorporating rhythm patterns that Kira recognized from androgyny healing traditions. Maya, how are you feeling? Any specific discomfort or just general malaise? Maya, who had been quietly enduring the examination, perked up at being addressed directly rather than discussed as a medical curiosity. My head feels fuzzy, like static interference, and my skin itches where it doesn't show. Nathan exchanged glances with Kira, both recognizing symptoms that fell outside standard human medical experience. Kira, in traditional androgyny medicine, how would you address immune system conflicts in mixed heritage children? The question caught Kira off guard. No human medical professional had ever asked for her input, let alone treated her cultural knowledge as potentially valuable rather than primitive superstition. Harmonic stabilization, she said hesitantly. Using sound frequencies to help conflicting biological systems find compatible rhythms, but it requires equipment that most human facilities don't possess. Nathan studied his diagnostic readouts thoughtfully. What if we modified standard medical resonance equipment to produce bioharmonic frequencies? Could that help Maya's systems find balance? You would try that? Kira asked, surprised by his willingness to blend human technology with androgyny healing traditions. Maya's physiology requires a synthesis approach, Nathan replied matter-of-factly. Treating her as either fully human or fully androgyny ignores the reality of her unique biological systems. Over the next 2 hours, Nathan and Kira worked together to modify medical equipment that could address Maya's hybrid immune system conflict. Kira provided theoretical guidance while Nathan handled the technical implementation, creating a treatment approach that neither could have developed independently. The harmonic resonance is stabilizing her cellular rhythms, Nathan observed as Maya's fever began to break. This is remarkable. Why isn't this approach more widely known? Because most human doctors assume that alien medicine is primitive, Kira replied honestly. And most aliens don't trust human technology enough to attempt integration. Maya sat up on the examination table, her dual-colored eyes bright and alert for the first time in days. Dr. Cross, did you and Mama invent a new kind of medicine? We collaborated, Nathan said with a smile. Your mother provided the theoretical framework, and I handled the technical adaptation. That's how the best discoveries happen, when different knowledge systems work together. As they prepared to leave the medical center, Nathan made a suggestion that surprised Kira even more than his medical collaboration. Would you be interested in having dinner tonight? There are some fascinating implications of bioharmonic medicine that I'd like to discuss further. Kira hesitated, aware that accepting social invitations from human colonists often led to uncomfortable situations when their true motivations became clear. Dr. Cross, I appreciate your professional interest, but Maya and I have learned to be cautious about. I understand, Nathan interrupted gently, and I realize that my invitation might seem presumptuous given the social dynamics on this colony. But I'd genuinely like to continue our conversation about integrated medical approaches. Plus, Maya mentioned she's never seen a human kitchen, and I make excellent synthesized pasta. Maya tugged on Kira's sleeve, her expression hopeful in a way that made Kira's heart ache. The gossip started within days of Nathan's dinner invitation, spreading through Titan Colony's social networks with the efficiency of a well-designed virus. Kira first noticed the change in atmosphere at the diner, where conversation stopped when she approached tables and resumed in whispers after she'd moved on to serve other customers. "Heard the doc's gone native," she overheard Supervisor Jenkins telling his breakfast companion. "Next thing you know, he'll be prescribing alien voodoo instead of proper medicine." Kira focused on refilling coffee cups and pretending not to notice how customers avoided making eye contact, as if acknowledging her presence might somehow contaminate them with whatever social disease Nathan had apparently contracted by showing kindness to an interspecies family. The situation escalated when Maya came home from school with bruises on her arms and tears in her eyes, though she initially tried to hide both from her mother. "It's nothing, Mama," Maya insisted, attempting to pull her sleeves down over the purple marks on her forearms. "I just fell during playground time." Kira's maternal instincts recognized the careful lie of a child trying to protect her parent from painful knowledge. She knelt beside Maya's chair, gently examining the finger-shaped bruises that spoke of deliberate cruelty rather than accidental falls. "Maya," she said softly, "what really happened at school today?" The story emerged in reluctant pieces. Tommy Chen and his friends cornering Maya during recess, calling her alien freak and half-breed monster, while the supervising teacher conveniently focused her attention elsewhere. The physical violence was new, but the verbal harassment had been escalating since Nathan began showing interest in their family. "They said Dr. Cross is sick in the head for liking aliens," Maya whispered, "and that I'm going to make him catch alien diseases that will rot his brain." Kira felt fury and helplessness warring in her chest. She'd endured years of subtle discrimination and social exclusion, accepting it as the price of raising Maya in relative safety. But watching her daughter suffer for someone else's kindness felt like a cruelty she hadn't anticipated. That afternoon, Kira marched into the school administrator's office with Maya's bruises documented and a formal complaint prepared. Principal Williams, a thin man who'd always treated Maya's enrollment as a regrettable necessity, listened to her concerns with barely concealed impatience. "Mrs. Velshan," he said, pronouncing her name with deliberate awkwardness, "children sometimes have difficulty adjusting to unusual social situations. Perhaps Maya would benefit from alternative educational arrangements better suited to her specific needs." "You mean segregated education," Kira replied, recognizing the euphemism for removal from mainstream schooling. "I mean specialized programs designed for children who don't fit traditional social structures," Williams continued. "There are off-world facilities that cater specifically to mixed-heritage students." The suggestion felt like exile disguised as accommodation. Williams was essentially offering to solve the Maya problem by making her someone else's responsibility, eliminating the source of social tension rather than addressing the behavior causing it. "Maya has every right to attend school here," Kira said carefully. "What I'm asking for is protection from harassment and violence, not relocation." "Protection is a complex issue when the harassment stems from natural social dynamics," Williams replied. "Children instinctively recognize differences, and forcing acceptance often creates more problems than it solves." Kira left the meeting knowing that Maya would receive no protection from official channels, and that continuing to demand fair treatment would only escalate the targeting her daughter faced. That evening, she began researching transport schedules and off-world opportunities, preparing for another displacement in their series of attempts to find somewhere Maya could simply be a child. Nathan arrived at the diner the next morning to find Kira serving customers with the mechanical precision of someone operating on emotional autopilot. He waited until her break, then approached with the gentle concern she'd come to associate with his presence. "Kira, you seem distracted today. Is everything all right?" The simple question nearly broke her carefully maintained composure. She glanced around the diner, noting which customers were watching their interaction with disapproving interest, then made a decision that felt both necessary and devastating. "Dr. Cross, I appreciate your kindness toward Maya and me, but I think it's best if we maintain appropriate boundaries going forward." Nathan's expression shifted to confusion, then understanding as he processed the social dynamics that had led to her withdrawal. "This is about the gossip, isn't it? People are making your life difficult because I've been friendly toward your family." "It's not just gossip," Kira replied quietly. "Maya's being targeted at school. The harassment has escalated to physical violence, and the administration's solution is to suggest that she'd be happier somewhere else." Nathan's jaw tightened with anger that matched Kira's own fury at the situation. "They're punishing her for my behavior. They're punishing her for existing in a community that sees mixed families as problematic," Kira corrected. "Your friendship has been wonderful for both of us, but Maya's safety has to come first." "What if there was another solution?" Nathan asked. "Something that addressed the root problem instead of just managing the symptoms." Before Kira could ask what he meant, Administrator Foster entered the diner with the purposeful stride of someone on official business. He approached their table with barely concealed hostility, his attention focused entirely on Nathan. "Dr. Cross, I need to speak with you about some concerns that have been brought to my attention regarding your professional conduct." Nathan turned to face Foster with the calm expression of someone prepared for confrontation. "What specific concerns, Administrator?" "Your association with certain alien residents has created questions about your judgment and priorities," Foster replied, making no effort to lower his voice. "Several families have expressed discomfort with their children being treated by someone who's become emotionally involved with non-human residents." "Emotionally involved," Nathan repeated flatly. "You mean treating them like people deserving of basic respect and medical care?" "I mean crossing professional boundaries in ways that compromise your objectivity," Foster shot back. "A physician's first loyalty should be to the human community he serves, not to alien interests that may conflict with colony welfare." Kira stood abruptly, recognizing the signs of an escalating confrontation that would only make their situation worse. "Dr. Cross, thank you for your concern, but this conversation is unnecessary. Maya and I have decided to relocate off-colony anyway." Both men turned to stare at her, Nathan with surprise and Foster with satisfaction. "Perhaps that's for the best," Foster said smugly. "The colony functions more smoothly when everyone understands their appropriate place in the social structure." Nathan's response surprised everyone, including Kira. Instead of accepting her diplomatic withdrawal or Foster's administrative victory, he made a declaration that transformed the entire dynamic of their conversation. "Actually, Administrator, I don't think anyone will be relocating. Kira, Maya, would you consider staying if the social situation changed significantly?" Nathan looked directly at Kira with an expression that combined determination and something deeper. "Because I have a proposal that might address all of these concerns permanently." Kira felt her heart stop as she recognized the look in Nathan's eyes, not just professional concern or friendly support, but the kind of focused intention that suggested he was about to make a choice that would change all of their lives irrevocably. Nathan's proposal hung in the air of the diner like a quantum particle waiting to collapse into reality. Kira stared at him, her mind struggling to process what she thought she'd heard, while Administrator Foster's expression cycled through confusion, disbelief, and growing alarm. "Dr. Cross," Foster said carefully, "I'm not sure I understand what you're suggesting." "I'm suggesting that I marry Kira and legally adopt Maya," Nathan replied with the calm precision of someone announcing a medical diagnosis. "That would make them my family, rather than just alien residents receiving my professional attention." The words hit Kira like a physical blow, not because they were unwelcome, but because they represented a solution so far beyond her expectations that she'd never allowed herself to consider it possible. Marriage to a respected human colonist would transform her and Maya's status from barely tolerated aliens to protected family members. "Nathan," she whispered, "you can't be serious. The social consequences for you would be manageable," he interrupted, turning to face her with an expression that combined professional confidence and personal determination. "I've thought about this carefully, Kira. Not just as a response to current circumstances, but as something I genuinely want." Foster's political instincts kicked in as he realized the implications of Nathan's declaration. A marriage between the colony's chief physician and an alien resident would create legal protections that administrative harassment couldn't easily overcome, while forcing the community to confront their treatment of mixed families directly. "Dr. Cross, this is clearly an emotional reaction to temporary social pressure," Foster said desperately. "I'm sure that with some time to consider the ramifications." "Administrator," Nathan interrupted, "are you suggesting that I'm not competent to make personal decisions about marriage and family formation? Because that would raise interesting questions about my fitness to serve as chief medical officer." The bureaucratic trap was elegant in its simplicity. Foster couldn't question Nathan's judgment without undermining his professional credibility, but accepting his competence meant acknowledging his right to marry whomever he chose. Maya, who had been following the adult conversation with the intense focus of someone whose future hung in the balance, suddenly spoke up from her position beside Kira's chair. "Dr. Cross, if you marry Mama, would that make you my papa?" Nathan knelt beside Maya's chair, giving her the same serious attention he'd shown during their medical discussions. "If your mother agrees to marry me, and if you'd like me to be your papa, then yes, I would legally adopt you as my daughter." "And we wouldn't have to move away?" Maya asked, hope and fear warring in her dual-colored eyes. "You'd never have to move away again," Nathan promised. "This would be your home permanently and legally." Kira felt tears threatening as she watched Nathan interact with her daughter, seeing not just kindness but genuine paternal affection in his manner. The practical part of her mind cataloged the advantages: legal protection, social respectability, economic security, and an end to Maya's isolation. But beneath the practical considerations lay something more dangerous: the recognition that Nathan's proposal offered not just protection, but the family structure Maya had been craving since David's death. "Nathan," she said quietly, "are you sure about this? Marriage is a significant commitment and you barely know us. I know that you're an intelligent woman who's raised a remarkable child under difficult circumstances," Nathan replied, standing to face her directly. "I know that you have medical knowledge that complements my training, and that working together we've already achieved things neither of us could accomplish independently. And I know that Maya deserves to grow up in a family that values her unique heritage rather than seeing it as a problem to be managed." Foster made one last attempt to derail what he clearly saw as a catastrophic development. "Dr. Cross, surely you realize that interspecies marriage will create complications for your professional standing. Many families may prefer physicians who maintain traditional human family structures. Then those families are welcome to seek medical care elsewhere," Nathan replied matter-of-factly. "My professional ethics don't depend on popular." 3 days into what Maya had started thinking of as the most educational captivity in military history, Zara brought her to the Void Dancers * Command Center. The space was unlike anything in human ship design. Organic curves blended seamlessly with crystalline technology, and the air hummed with energy that seemed almost alive. "Welcome to the heart of Kethani Tactical Operations," Zara said, gesturing to a central platform surrounded by holographic displays showing fleet movements across multiple star systems. "This is where we've been coordinating the evacuation efforts and planning our increasingly desperate defensive strategies." Maya studied the displays with professional interest. The Kethani command structure was clearly sophisticated, but she noticed something that made her tactical instincts prickle. Your fleet movements are too predictable. You're fighting a defensive war against an enemy that adapts to patterns. We've noticed that problem, Zara replied dryly. Every time we develop a new strategy, the Devourers counter it within days. It's like they can read our minds. Maybe they can. You said they consume consciousness. What if they're absorbing tactical knowledge from every engagement? Zara's ears perked up with interest. That would explain their rapid adaptation rates. But how do we fight an enemy that learns from every battle? By not fighting the same battle twice, Maya said, warming to the tactical challenge. Asymmetric warfare, constant innovation, strategies so chaotic that even we don't know what we're doing until we do it. A new alarm began sounding throughout the command center, and Zara immediately moved to her command station. Speak of the devils, we have Devourer scouts probing the Zirian evacuation convoy. Maya watched the tactical display update with enemy positions and felt her pulse quicken. 20 civilian transport ships, 3 Kethani escorts, and a swarm of Devourer attack craft that moved with predatory precision. The convoy won't make it to the jump point, Zara said grimly. We're too far away to provide effective support. What if you weren't providing support? Maya asked suddenly. What if you were creating a distraction? Zara turned to look at her. Explain. The Devourers expect you to defend the convoy directly. Instead, what if we made them think there was a more valuable target nearby? Something they'd prioritize over civilian transports. Such as? Maya grinned. A Kethani command ship with a captured human tactical officer aboard. 2 high-value targets for the price of 1. Zara's ears flattened against her head. That's insane. We'd be outnumbered 50 to 1. Exactly. Which is why they won't expect us to attack. Maya moved to the tactical display, her mind already working through the possibilities. Look at their formation. They're spread out to prevent the convoy from scattering. If we hit their command node hard and fast, the coordination breaks down. And then we die gloriously while the convoy escapes, Zara finished. Or we don't die at all. Your ship has superior speed and maneuverability. Hit and run tactics. Keep them chasing us while the civilians reach safety. Zara stared at the display for a long moment, her ears twitching as she processed the proposal. It could work. But I'd need someone coordinating our movements who understands both human tactical doctrine and Devourer behavior patterns. Lucky for you, you've got a captive human tactical officer with nothing better to do. Maya, Zara said quietly, if we do this and survive, there's no going back. Your people will consider you a traitor for working with us. And if we don't do this, there won't be any people left to consider anything. Maya moved to stand beside Zara at the command station. Besides, I'm pretty sure I was dead already according to your interdimensional assassination theory. Zara's expression softened. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. It's who I am. Maya placed her hand over Zara's on the control interface. Now let's go save some lives and annoy some cosmic horror entities. The next 30 minutes passed in a blur of preparation and coordination. Maya found herself integrated into the Kethani tactical systems in ways that should have taken months of training. But the organic technology seemed to respond to intent as much as knowledge. Kethani bioneural interfaces adapt to the user's cognitive patterns, Zara explained, as Maya's consciousness expanded to encompass the ship's sensor networks. It's like becoming part of the ship itself. This is either the most amazing thing I've ever experienced or I'm having some kind of psychotic break, Maya said, feeling the asterisk void dancer's asterisk systems respond to her thoughts. Probably both. Try not to think about it too hard, or you'll give yourself a feedback loop. They dropped out of hyperspace directly into the middle of the Devourer formation, catching the enemy completely off guard. Maya felt a savage satisfaction as their surprise attack tore through 3 enemy craft before the Devourers could react. So far so good, she called out, coordinating evasive maneuvers while targeting their next wave of attacks. The convoy is moving toward the jump point, but we need to keep the pressure on. The asterisk void dancer danced through space with impossible grace, Zara's piloting skills enhanced by Maya's tactical predictions. They worked together as if they'd been partners for years rather than days, each anticipating the other's moves in ways that defied rational explanation. The Devourers are adapting faster than usual, Zara reported, as enemy fire began tracking their movements more accurately. They're learning from our attack patterns in real time. Then let's stop having patterns, Maya replied, feeding chaotic variables into their targeting systems. Random targeting, unpredictable movements, tactics that don't make sense even to us. What followed was the most unconventional space battle in recorded history. Maya found herself calling out maneuvers that violated everything she'd learned in military academy, while Zara executed impossible flight patterns that turned their ship into a three-dimensional puzzle the Devourers couldn't solve. This is either brilliant or completely insane, Zara laughed as they looped through their own weapons fire to attack a Devourer craft from an angle that shouldn't have existed. I'm voting for insane, but effective insane, Maya replied, feeling more alive than she had in years. The convoy reached the jump point just as the Void Dancer's asterisk shields began failing under concentrated enemy fire. Maya prepared to give the order to retreat, but Zara had other ideas. Hold on, she called out, her hands flying over controls that Maya couldn't identify. I'm going to try something that's either going to save us or kill us very quickly. What are you? The ship suddenly phased partially out of normal space, becoming translucent and ghostly. The final battle for galactic survival began at dawn on a Tuesday, which Maya thought was rather anticlimactic timing for the potential end of all sentient life. She stood on the bridge of the combined fleet flagship, a hybrid human Kethani vessel that looked like someone had asked an engineer to design a ship while slightly drunk, watching sensors tracked the approach of the main Devourer force. Tactical analysis complete, reported Commander Tors, who had volunteered to serve as Maya's liaison with the human fleet elements. We're looking at approximately 2,000 Devourer vessels of various configurations, supported by an unknown number of interdimensional support craft. And we have? Maya asked, though she already knew the answer wouldn't be encouraging. 400 ships, half of which are civilian transports converted for combat duty, Zara replied from her position at the combined command station. Her ears were flat against her head, indicating the kind of stress that came from knowing you were about to attempt the impossible. Maya studied the tactical displays with the calm focus that had kept her alive through dozens of impossible situations. Numbers analysis says we're doomed. Technological assessment says we're probably doomed. Strategic evaluation says we're definitely doomed. Your point being, Tors asked nervously. My point being that conventional wisdom has never been particularly useful in unconventional situations, Maya replied, activating the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is strategic command. Today we're going to do something that's never been attempted before. We're going to save the galaxy using tactics so crazy that even we don't fully understand them. Laughter echoed across the comm channels from both human and Kethani crews. Maya had learned that humor was indeed universal, especially when facing certain death. The plan is simple in concept, Maya continued. The Devourers learn from every battle, which means traditional tactics are useless. So we're going to fight a battle that has no tactics at all, pure chaos, random targeting, movements that follow no pattern because there is no pattern. And if that doesn't work, called out Captain Rodriguez from the asterisk resilience asterisk, then we improvise something even more ridiculous, Zara answered. Remember, everyone, we're not trying to win a conventional battle. We're trying to break the Devourer's adaptive intelligence by feeding it data that doesn't make sense. The enemy fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a swarm of mechanical locusts, their ships moving in perfect coordination that spoke of hive mind intelligence. Maya felt the familiar pre-battle adrenaline surge, but this time it was mixed with something else, a sense of connection to everyone around her that came from the Kethani neural link technology. All ships engage at will with random targeting priorities, Maya ordered. Remember, if your actions make sense, you're doing it wrong. What followed was the strangest space battle in galactic history. Human ships performed maneuvers that violated their own design specifications, while Kethani vessels used their bioneural technology to create attack patterns that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Maya coordinated the chaos from her command station, feeling the pulse of the battle through her connection to both fleets. The Devourers are having trouble adapting, Zara reported, her hands dancing over controls that shifted between crystalline and metallic as the ship's hybrid systems responded to combat stress. Their coordination is breaking down because they can't predict our next moves. That's because we don't know our next moves either, Maya replied, directing a squadron of converted cargo haulers to attack what appeared to be empty space. I have no idea why I just gave that order, but it felt right. The cargo hauler's seemingly random attack revealed a cloaked Devourer command ship, proving that sometimes tactical instinct transcended rational analysis. The revelation created a chain reaction as other hidden enemy vessels were forced to decloak, disrupting their ambush formations. But the Devourers were learning even from chaos, and Maya could see their adaptive intelligence beginning to find patterns in the randomness. They needed something bigger, something that would overload the enemy's ability to process information entirely. Zara, Maya said quietly, remember what you told me about Kethani consciousness networking, the ability to link multiple minds together. Zara's ears perked up with understanding. You're thinking about a full fleet neural link. Maya, that's never been attempted with this many people, and certainly not with mixed species. Would it work? It might create a collective intelligence capable of tactical innovation on a level the Devourers can't match. Or it might fry everyone's brains simultaneously. Maya looked around the command center at the crews working desperately to coordinate an impossible battle. Human and Kethani officers working side by side, their differences forgotten in the face of mutual annihilation. Can you set it up? Yes, but Maya, if this goes wrong, we won't just lose the battle, we'll lose ourselves. A neural link of this magnitude could erase individual consciousness entirely. Maya felt the weight of the decision settling on her shoulders. Around them, the battle was slowly turning against the Allied fleet as the Devourers adapted to their chaotic tactics. They had minutes at most before the defense collapsed entirely. Do it, she said simply. Maya. Zara, trust me. Sometimes the only way to save who we are is to risk becoming something else entirely. Zara's hands moved to the bioneural interface controls, and Maya felt the familiar sensation of her consciousness expanding. But this time it didn't stop with the ship's systems. It kept growing, encompassing other minds, other perspectives, other ways of understanding the universe. Suddenly, Maya was simultaneously herself and 400 other people. She was human tactical precision and Kethani emotional intuition. She was the steady calm of experienced commanders and the innovative chaos of junior officers. She was fear and courage and determination, and hope all blended together into something that transcended individual existence. The collective consciousness turned its attention to the Devourer fleet and saw patterns that no single mind could have perceived. The enemy's adaptive intelligence was based on consuming and analyzing individual tactical approaches, but it had no framework for understanding a distributed consciousness that thought with hundreds of brains simultaneously. Maya and everyone began to coordinate attacks that existed on multiple levels of reality at once. Ships moved in formations that were mathematically impossible but tactically perfect. Weapons fired at targets that wouldn't exist until the shots created them. The battle became less a conflict between fleets and more a conversation between different forms of consciousness. The Devourers tried to adapt, but they were designed to learn from individual minds, not from a collective intelligence that thought in ways they had never encountered. Their coordination began to break down as their adaptive processes became overwhelmed by data they couldn't parse. "It's working," Maya Zara everyone observed through thousands of voices. "They can't understand us because we're something new." But the neural link was burning through their individual consciousness like fire through paper. Maya could feel herself beginning to dissolve into the collective, her personal memories and identity fading as she became part of something larger. "Maya," Zara's voice reached her through the mental chaos, "hold on to who you are. Don't let the link consume you." "I'm trying, but it's like trying to hold water in my hands." "Then let me help." Zara's consciousness wrapped around Maya's like a lifeline, anchoring her individual identity within the vast network of minds. Together, they maintained their sense of self while channeling the collective's tactical genius. The tide of battle turned decisively as the Devourer fleet found itself outmaneuvered by an enemy that thought faster than they could adapt. One by one, the enemy ships began withdrawing from the battle, their hive-mind intelligence finally recognizing that it faced something beyond its ability to counter. "They're retreating," someone reported. Maya wasn't sure who, as individual voices had become hard to distinguish. "No," Maya Zara corrected. "They're regrouping. They'll be back once they figure out how to counter collective consciousness." "Then we'd better make sure they don't get the chance," the collective replied, with hundreds of voices speaking in unison. The final phase of the battle involved chasing the retreating Devourer fleet back to their interdimensional staging area, and systematically dismantling the ancient weapon network that had threatened the galaxy. It was dangerous, exhausting work that required every ounce of tactical brilliance the collective consciousness could muster. When it was over, Maya found herself back in her individual mind, sitting on the floor of the command center with Zara's arms around her. Around them, other officers were similarly recovering from the neural link, looking dazed but triumphant. "Did we win?" Maya asked, her voice hoarse from hours of battle coordination. "We won," Zara confirmed, her ears drooping with exhaustion. "The Devourer network is completely destroyed, and the surviving enemy forces have retreated to whatever dimension they came from." Maya tried to stand and discovered that her legs had apparently forgotten how to support her weight. "How long were we linked?" 18 hours. The longest collective neural link in Kethani history, and the first successful mixed-species consciousness network. "And everyone survived." "Everyone survived, though I think we're all going to need some time to remember how to be individuals again." Maya looked around at the mixed crews of humans and Kethani, all helping each other recover from the most intense shared experience in galactic history. Maybe that's not entirely a bad thing. We learned something important today about working together, about being more than the sum of our parts.